Hello and welcome to another beautiful time on Executive Discuss, coming to you on the network service of the NTA. My name is Ololade Adiniji Adeline. This week on the program, my guest is somebody who is well versed in the academia. But aside the academia, he's also impacting lives in the area of health, Nigerians, both remotely and, of course, directly. I'm talking of the Director General of the National Health Insurance Authority, formerly known as the National Health Insurance Scheme, Professor Mohammed Sambo. Hello, Prof. How are you?
Thank you very much, madam. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. To put more, to get a clearer understanding for this conversation, you were at the NHIS at the inception when it was set up. For somebody who knew the history, where it started from, and from somebody who is well versed in the area of public health, how has the organization fared since its inception? Is it fulfilling its mandate?
Thank you very much. I think this is one critical question that we need to be interrogating, because NHIS is a product of establishment of law, which the military signed at the point of exit, specifically 13th May 1999. So the new government, the law came just as about the exit of the military. So I was there in the health insurance as a new officer, but holding a very critical position of principal manager operations. So at that material time, after the law came out, there was a consultation meeting with the stakeholders. And it was very obvious that there was a lacuna in the law. That lacuna is any health insurance anywhere in the world, if you want it to cover the population, and if you want it to be all-encompassing, it has to be made mandatory. But the law, as it came out, it was not made mandatory. Okay. So that lacuna was identified at the very beginning. So because it was not made mandatory, most of the state actors, they say they will not join. And it was substantially to cover the public sector and the federal, state, and local government and private sectors, as private sector organizations. All the states say they will not join. So right from the beginning, you have lost so many potential enrollees that would have come to the health insurance. And there has been an attempt since then to see how that law can be amended. And you know, it was a military law
Yes.
but that has spanned into
the
civilian
civil
administration. So when the civilian administration came, you know, they have relative independence. They say they will not join unless it is amended, unless it is something is done. So up to the time I became executive secretary, no any state has keyed into the national health insurance properly. However, along the milestone, most of the actors have recognized the importance of health insurance for attainment of universal health coverage. That is when the concept of decentralized health insurance ecosystem came in.
Okay.
By decentralized ecosystem, it is said that health insurance should be operated at two layers: the federal and the state level. That's what led to the states developing their health insurance agencies across the board. So if any important conversation on health insurance as to how much it has covered, it will have to be a summation of the efforts at the national level as well as the state level. So by the law, NHIS will not have gone far beyond what it has achieved then. Secondly, there were so many administrative encumbrances. Because I was part and parcel of the system, I know when human resource in health insurance was being developed. It has no recourse to any professionalism. So if you know somebody, you will just come into the system. So at the point when I came to the National Health Insurance as executive secretary, this is a health sector organization. There were a total of 1,400 staff, out of which only 40 something are healthcare workers. By healthcare workers, I mean the doctors, the pharmacists, the nurses, laboratory medical scientists, and so on and so forth.
Out of how many you said?
Out of 1,400 plus, only 40 something were healthcare professionals. So administratively, it was, and those are some of the lacunas that we identify. Not only me, people that maybe have ability to see beyond, and we had to live at infancy so that we can go and make our lives better in other endeavors. So there is no regret. This is the reality we have met. And another issue is, in the NHIS that I met, there is no professionalism. There wasn't any professionalism.
Yeah, I mean, when you have 40 out of how many officials, even in the organization?
That's not even the matter. If you are a pharmacist, you can be a head of HR. If you are a historian, in fact, the number of people that read history were more than the number of healthcare professionals in the organization.
Goodness.
You have a situation whereby people that read finance, people that read social science will go and be inspecting and accrediting healthcare facilities. So there are, apart from the legal encumbrance, there are some administrative issues. There were financial issues. Maybe along the course of the discourse, we will highlight some of them.
So for an organization that took off with so many challenges, and you saw it, you left, but you're back here now. In your time in this organization, identifying those challenges, what have you been able to bring to bear? What changes have you been able to effect to ensure that the organization lives up to its mandate?
Okay, thank you very much. This is another very important question. Before I came, there were so many numerous problems.
Like you said.
The problems, it reached to a crescendo level, to the extent that this organization was a theater of war. Infighting between the staff of the organization, the labor, so many problems between the Ministry of Health and the organization. In fact, there was a time when tear gas was being thrown into this. In fact, NHIS became a hub of media. So That led to the intervention by Mr. President, President Muhammad Buhari, when he set up a presidential panel to investigate what was happening. In the 20 years of existence of NHIS, it had about 12 chief executive officers.
In 20 years?
Yes, so if you do a simple arithmetic, every 2 years, every less than 2 years,
yes,
a chief executive officer will go.
Yes.
But we thank God we have stabilized it. So while that presidential committee that Mr. President constituted has x-rayed the organization very deeply. So at the time when I was given appointment letter, I was also given what you call the document that when you do an investigation, you do a summary. And I was given with 10 key deliverables by Mr. President that must be implemented. I can mention some of them. Number one, NHIS must have a 10-year strategic plan. For the 20 years of the existence of the organization, there is no any credible operational plan. So I was wondering, how can this organization be able to attain universal health coverage without having a very clearly defined roadmap? Number two, I came and made organization that the second recommendation, I should undertake all the backlog of auditing of account of the organization, because for more than 7 years, the account of the organization have not been audited. Number three, that I should address all human resource challenges, including disciplinary issues and so on and so forth. So the white paper also alluded to the fact that we must address that those human resource issues. Number four, there was no clearly discerning role of the chief executive officers and the board, and there was no even clearly defined organogram. If a chief executive officer comes to NHIA, he will, if he wants to favor people, he will create another department. So the organization was constantly creating departments to favor particular individuals. Exactly. So I should liaise with Ministry of Health and Office of Head of Service to ensure that we have a very clear defined structure and organogram. Number five, to also do aggressive capacity building on procurement processes, because the knowledge is very rudimentary. Number six, there were staff that were employed or engaged as a secondment. It's one of the major crises in the causes. One of the major causes of the crisis in the organization. Those staffs were engaged. Maybe somebody was a level 10 officer, he will come to NHIA as a secondment as level 15 officer.
Oh my!
So it created a lot of bad blood within the organization. The committee recommended that those people should be seconded, and so many other things. About 10 of them I mentioned. So when I came in, the most important thing to me, which is a panacea to any development, is peace and stability. Yes. So I unfolded a 3-point rebranding agenda. Internally, there is no peace. Among the stakeholders, there were a lot of problems. Almost everybody has become disenchanted with health insurance. International partners were not working with the organization. And this is an organization that is supposed to bring international partners that will supposed to take the organization into an international standard. Because of the crisis and lack of confidence, they were not there. So I came with 3-point rebranding agenda. One, restoration of value system that will enable the NHIA to be a credible, result-oriented organization. Number two, engender transparency and accountability in the entire operations of the organization, including all the stakeholders. Number 3, to accelerate the drive toward attainment of universal health coverage, which is the clear core mandate of the organization. And we move into the implementation. Within a span of 1 year, the negative image of this organization disappeared into a thin air. We have addressed many thorny issues within the system. For example, I can mention some few. When we came in, the HMOs were owing a lot of monies from healthcare providers in the range of billions. We changed a strategy for reconciliation. This one of the activity that was going. Hitherto, you have a situation whereby if there is a reconciliation, you have to take staff from headquarters to go around the country to do a reconciliation. Because the state offices were dysfunctional. They are not functioning. I said, this is not going to be possible. Then I now create what I call decentralized reconciliation system, whereby at the level of state, we can do a reconciliation between health providers and HMOs. And through that effort, we have retrieved about over 2 billion naira from health maintenance organizations that were owing for the healthcare providers. When I came, there was a lot of delay in even payment of the healthcare providers by the NHIS. There were delays in payment of providers by the HMOs. So we introduced what we call a quarterly payment reimbursement to the HMOs. Ever since we have done that, we have no problem at all in the payment of capitation. Everything is being paid promptly. Where we have small problems are in the payment of fee for service, because that one, service has to be provided and return has to be made, which will now be scrutinized
before payment can be made.
So this is where we are having a delay, and we have put in so many strategies to address those problems. Then in terms of information and knowledge of the providers, in the past, there's no any single document that says these are the services that you are entitled to as an enrollee. And these are the drugs that you are entitled to as an enrollee. So we have developed those documents. We have put them in our websites. We have distributed them to our offices and so on and so forth. Another problem is, I talk about human resource, very key and central. I embark on strengthening the state offices. And to strengthen the state offices, we need healthcare professionals so that accreditation cannot be centrally driven. So we were able to employ 2 doctors, 1 pharmacist, 1 lab scientist, and 1 nurse in every state of the federation. This has not totally addressed the human resource concern, but it has at least achieved a lot of, we have seen a lot of improvement, even in terms of the output that we see in quality assurance, in accreditation, even in terms of speed. Because if you want to do accreditation now, you can just deploy those healthcare providers. In fact, I was wondering, how would we have been able to achieve the level of accreditation with the advent of the basic healthcare provision fund that has been on ground? So that strategy has helped, and so many others. Then with respect to the innovations, because health insurance is an evolving mechanism of financing healthcare, and therefore there is room for a lot of creativity, and there will be room for a lot of innovations. We have embarked on so many innovations. Number 1, I was the architect of developing what is called health insurance under our roof in Nigeria. Because health insurance, as I told you earlier, is going to be driven at national and subnational level. So how do we ensure that there is a very credible coordination mechanism whereby things can be aggregated, things can be integrated in a decentralized environment? And we develop the health insurance under our roof system. And with this strategy, we now work very closely with the states.
Okay.
And the partnership has been very tremendous and very appealing. And it is through that partnership that we are driving seamlessly the implementation of health of basic health care provision fund. We need to expand the fiscal space. Informal sector segment of the population is much more than the formal sector.
Formal sector, yes.
There is no credible mechanism of bringing that informal sector. So we develop what we call group, individual, and family social health insurance program. So that if you are an individual and you have capacity to pay, you can come to the National Health Insurance and register. If you are a family, and that family has capacity to enroll.
In the informal sector?
In the informal sector.
Okay.
You can come and join. If you are a group or association, you have the capacity to join the National Health Insurance space. So for the expanding the fiscal space, we have created a gift ship, which was launched by the Honorable Minister of Health. There is incessant complaint about the drugs. I'm sure you will ask me that question.
Naturally.
Naturally, you will ask me that question. But before you ask me, let me give you the answers to what we have done. The complaints about the drugs is a daily complaint. Why are people complaining? Number one, our people, health insurance, or any ministry that is developing what is called essential drug list, they use a generic name. No country will write an essential drug list with a branded name of drugs.
Yes.
So you write with generic drugs. And normally, there's actually no difference in the composition, chemical composition of generic and branded drug. The branded drugs are usually manufactured by the manufacturers that have the patent rights, and therefore it's always expensive. So if we have a mechanism of checking, fake and adulterated drug, which is not in any case within the purview of the National Health Insurance Authority, but NAFDAC. The branded drug and generic drug are the same. They are the same.
Yes.
So there is need for consumer information and education to realize that those two drugs are the same. But this is an uphill task. No matter how much you try to talk to the people about generic and branded drug, some will accept, but majority will not. So how do we now fold our arms and people will be complaining? We say no. We now develop what you call National Medicine Drug, NHIS or NHIA Medicine Supply Initiative. What is this?
NHIA Medicine Supply Initiative. Okay.
What is this initiative? The hallmark of this initiative is to, one, make drug available, make drug accessible, and make drug affordable to the teeming populace. How will you, and make drug qualitative to the teeming populace? How do we intend to do that? We invited the Drug Manufacturers Associations in Nigeria. We bring all the stakeholders that have a say in drug, NAFDAC, NAPRID, Custom, Ministry of Industry. We brought them to have a very robust conversation on how do we get the drug manufacturers to manufacture drug based on the consumption pattern of health insurance ecosystem. The drugs that will be branded with NHIA inscription. So we got into this discussion with drug manufacturers. They have agreed to manufacture drugs with NHIA inscription, also branding.
Yes.
And they are ready to bring down the cost significantly this is going to be a magic wand, because if you are operating within the national health insurance ecosystem, you will go to a healthcare facility. The drug that you will be given,
that you'll be given, it's branded for you.
Branded with NHIA,
NHIA.
and you will not have cause to complain that it is
a fake drug, adulterated
or substandard or adulterated. So this is what we have done with respect to the initiative. And as a rider to that, we Roche say they cannot wait. They want to partner with NHIA to subsidize the cost of the drug of cancer. We got into partnership with them, and they have already, after a lengthy discussion, we have signed a memorandum of understanding, and we have commenced the piloting of the Roche brand, NHIA branded drug for cancer. And through that, Roche has bring down the cost by 50%. Sure. The NHIA will pay 30%. Then the enrollee will pay 20%. This is significant in the annal of the development of social health insurance ecosystem in Nigeria. So we are going to do the same with the other drugs, so that the cost of the drugs will relatively come down, because the manufacturers will cash into the quantity of drugs that they will be manufacturing, and the readily available market that they can push their drugs into the system.
So much that you have said, and so much still needs to be done, like it or not. Now, in all that you have said, yes, you have brought some sanity to the organization. You've also brought some sanity to the health insurance space in Nigeria. I will be talking to you from the perspective of a supposed beneficiary of the health insurance. Despite all that has been done, it looks like something is still missing, and that is for all these efforts to trickle down to the average Nigerian. The complaint out there is still about HMOs, accessibility to national health insurance. And you doing so much here but not trickling down. How do you intend to bridge this gap so that the average Nigerian out there can go to the hospital and get, quality health care service, of course, at a subsidized rate?
Yeah, thank you very much. One of the, NHIA has multiple stakeholders. And one of the major things that we have done in this country, which I will be bold to say, even if that is the only thing that the president has done in this country, he deserves commendation. That is the NHIA Act, which makes health insurance mandatory, and the inclusion of the vulnerable group fund in that law. For 23 years, for 22 years, effort has been made by successful administration, by successful legislators to amend the NHIA Act. It was not possible until May this year. Why did I say that? Because in this new act, it has given a legitimacy. It has made NHIS health insurance to be mandatory. It has made a provision of the vulnerable group funds, which will accelerate the increment in the fiscal space for the coverage of the people. It has also clearly defined health insurance as a social system for covering people and increasing access to healthcare services, financial access. And it has also distinguished health insurance under private arrangements. What does that mean? In the new law, health insurance will be operated taking cognizance of this demarcation. The provision of basic minimum care package will be done by the National Health Insurance Authority and the state health insurance without HMO interference. So the incessant complaint that is coming with the interface with the HMOs will drastically be reduced. Secondly, the HMO are not completely out of the system. In fact, they will be made to be more productive. Then beyond the minimum healthcare package, the HMO will drive any MDA or any organized private sector that is requiring a top-up will approach HMO for the top-up. Then HMOs will also drive the health insurance, private health insurance across the country. So that bureaucracy will now be reduced. Additionally, we have now developed what you call a mechanism ensuring responsiveness to patient care. And part of what we are going to do in the NHIA is we have integrated what we call management system.
Okay.
An enrollee, wherever he is and has a complaint, he can call directly our MCC. Absolutely. That infrastructure has been developed. He can call our MCC and the call will be routed to the state office where that enrollee is. And the complaint will be led to him. And because we now have healthcare professionals, they can quickly swing into action to address those problems. Those are structural problems. And where you have a structural problem, unless you get to the root cause of it,
yes,
what we will be doing is cosmetics. We cannot continue to do cosmetics. We have to go into the root cause of the problems, address the root causes of the problem, and you now begin to see the manifestation of the solution that we have put in place. So it is a work in progress. Nigerians and the enrollees will have to be patient with us. It is a house that has, we came to a house that has no solid foundation. And if you want to do, it's easier to build a new house than
to fix the one who is structurally deficient.
Who is structurally deficient.
I'll take you back to the National Health Insurance Act, which makes it mandatory for every Nigerian, I want to believe. Now, when we're talking of health insurance being mandatory for every Nigerian, you and I know that Nigeria is still a country that has quite a huge volume of rural population. Now, when we are looking at the rural population and then bringing asking that health insurance be made mandatory, how do we intend for the health insurance to trickle down, even to places where there is no, of course, a lot of places, they have no internet accessibility, not to talk, and then, telephone services. How do you want to ensure that, the health insurance, which has been asked to be made mandatory, trickles down to all those areas?
Thank you very much. You see, when I was talking, I said that NHIA had no even operational plan, no credible one-year operational plan. So we had a presidential mandate to do a 10-year strategic plan.
Yes.
And even a simple principle of organizational management entails that you should know where you want to go. We had ensured that we have done that strategic plan.
Okay.
It's not something that you will do now. It's something that you will set mechanism so that in future, even the universal health coverage, but according to sustainable development goals, we are talking about 2030. So we have aligned our strategic plan to see how we can reach out to the entire Nigerians, that everybody will have a health insurance cover by 2030. What are the approach? Number one is to have the legal instrument. And we thank Mr. President for being bold to sign that legal instrument. Number two, health insurance is not free. It has to be paid for. No matter how much you talk about coverage,
yes,
money has to come. And for money to come, for the money for health insurance, perhaps you need to divide the country into two. Those who have
and the have-nots.
And those who have not. The haves, they will pay for themselves. What are the things that you need to do as a nation? What are the legal instrument that you need to apply to ensure that the haves enrolled into the health insurance for the benefit of even the have-nots, because health insurance thrive in a very big pool. So if all those people that can afford will contribute to the health insurance, you have a very large pool. So we are now setting up a committee, all-encompassing committee, from Ministry of Justice, from Corporate Affairs Commission, from so many organizations, to sit down and develop a very credible blueprint that we can operationalize Health Insurance Act as a tool for attainment of universal health coverage. Number two, those who have not, they are the major source of concern. Yes. We need to mobilize resources for them to be able to come into the ecosystem. The law of the health insurance is very clear about the vulnerable group funds. How do you populate the vulnerable group funds? We have looked at other countries. We have seen that they have put health insurance as one of the top priorities. Yes. Because a healthy nation is a productive nation, therefore is a wealthy nation. No country that wants to develop will take the issue of healthcare of its people with levity. That is the kind of thing that we want to drive, to make sure that health insurance is in the top priority agenda of the government. We look at the other countries, we see that what they do to ensure universal health coverage is innovative financing. What is innovative financing? If you say 1 kobo per second call in telecommunication, yes. I make a phone call. 1 kobo is removed per second. Will you feel it? No. Neither will I feel it. So why don't you aggregate that 1 kobo per second call, which is not going to be feel at all by anybody, and aggregate that money and push it into universal health coverage for the purpose of the poor and the downtrodden. Okay. You will be able to aggregate billions of naira that can have nots. Government has also, in its wisdom, has developed what is called SSB tax, sugar, sweetened, and beverages tax. Okay. Because of the onward effects of these commodities, these sugary commodities on healthcare delivery system. So we are making a case for the health insurance. The substantial amount of that SSB tax will come to the health insurance to increase the pool for the poor. Then other innovative financing. When we are talking about innovative financing, we are talking about different strategies that you can think outside the box to generate resources to cater for the poor. Let me say, the health of the people is number one priority. If you want to be an economic prosperous country, the first thing that you need to do, you have to make the country people to be productive. And they cannot be productive if they are not healthy. This simple equation must be understood. So therefore, any investment in healthcare is not a wrong investment.
Yes, but in all of this that you have said, it's been so much hinged on the government, even though, yes, it's a national thing. Well, what is the role of the private sector?
The private sector has the largest number of employees. Yes. Informal sector has the largest sector as employee. In fact, I have seen a lot of effort by the private sector to do a lot of investment in healthcare, especially with the COVID pandemic. You know, COVID and the role they have played. So the private sector has a lot of role to play. Number one, they must come into the national health insurance scheme or into the national health insurance system because they want a productive workforce. Number two, they want to reduce the rising cost of medical care. Only health insurance arrangement can reduce the rising cost of medical care because it has capacity to pull the resources, to pull the risk together, so that A woman that is paying, that will have to pay 150,000 naira for cesarean section. If she subscribes to health insurance with 15,000, she can get the services. That is the appealing feature of the health insurance. This is the way to go. So private sector have to remain this role. They are the largest employees of the employer of the workforce. So they can get their workforce, and they can come into as part of the corporate social responsibilities to enroll more people into the fiscal space. And the private sector that are into manufacturing of drugs and other things will benefit from the large pool of the people that will now have access to healthcare because of the introduction of health insurance system.
You talked about drugs, you talked about medication, and especially under the National Health Insurance. One major complaint that has come from enrollees also is the fact that, well, the natural apathy is, why do I need to, even if I'm enrolled, why do I need to go further to try to enjoy it? Because I know that I can only get certain drugs. I can't go beyond a certain level. But with all that you have said, and with the funds that are supposed to coming to the National Health Insurance, scheme in Nigeria, what is the quality? What's the assurance of better quality medication for Nigerians?
Thank you very much. Let me say, you see, health insurance manages fund, and this fund is actuarial science determined. It's a simple arithmetic, which we all need to understand. Why is it that health insurance in Nigeria cannot bring the amount of that fund, that X amount of fund? If you look, it's a factor of salary. When you are talking about minimum wage of 30,000, and maybe 5% of it is taken, and that 5% will cover you, your spouse, and up to 4 children. This is a situation, and people have to understand that
so unless, in the actual sense, there's an improvement in the minimum wage.
When you improve the minimum wage and there is no inflation, even when you improve the minimum wage and there is inflation, the commodities, the drugs, the services within the hospital will increase. This is one of the major challenges of managing health insurance. But when you are in a country that has a very good gross domestic product, and the salary of workers is good, and the proportion of that salary is good, and you will now have ability to generate more fund. But because health insurance is a system, let me tell you, in some countries, health insurance is in the finance ministry. Okay. Because finance ministry do appropriation, do allocation of resources. So therefore, nobody will go with his cap in his hand and be begging finance, because the finance has the data, has the statistics. They know what we require, especially in a country that they do what is called tax-based financing. When it is tax-based, how much do we require? How much is the health insurance industry require? They will take X amount, they will give them, and they will provide the services. But another thing that is good in health insurance, when you have a very large pool, it has capacity to also reduce or to increase the amount of benefit package that you will purchase within the health insurance industry. So it's a combination of multiple things. It's not an easy task like going to NTA office, but it's like going to a very difficult terrain. But we have set out to look at all the issues and ensure that we do the best for Nigerians.
Now, I want to bring you back to the NHIA Act because there have been complaints from the HMOs about the Act. It looks like they're not so welcoming of the act. They're not so happy about it. Is this act in any way skewed towards, against the HMOs or what? I mean, what's the basis?
We have two types of social health insurance.
Yes.
The social aspect, provision of minimum health care package.
Yes.
HMOs are not completely happy because it's introducing the new order of change. Of course, people detest change.
But it's the only constant thing in life.
It's the only constant thing in life, and that's what we want them to realize, so that they can we work together.
Wow. Still talking about the National Health Insurance Scheme and the NHIA. Yes, it used to be the National Health Insurance Scheme, now NHIA. Maybe on the flip side, what exactly is it about the change of name?
I will put it mildly.
Okay.
Somebody was making introduction 2 days ago. He said, "This is you used to be a secretary." Secretary takes minutes and do.
Yes.
But now you are Director General. You are directing generally.
Generally.
This is on a lighter mood.
Yes.
This is on a lighter mood.
Exactly.
But when you look at deeply, you will realize that they are all chief executive officers. It's part of rebranding.
Okay.
When I told you, when a company is tired or is not selling the commodity,
branding, you felt a change of name was also necessary.
Yes, but NHIS and NHIA are quite different. They are fundamental modifications.
Okay, so
number
explain
one,
that.
NHIS was not mandatory. NHIA made health insurance mandatory. Very, very important. Number two, NHIA has vulnerable group funds.
But the
NHIA has no vulnerable group funds. Number three, NHIA has clearly defined the role of states in operationalization of health insurance in the country. NHIS has no role for the states. Number four, even in the technical modus operandi, I have told you, this one will NHIA and state health insurance will drive minimum health care package. HMO will apply, will drive the plus aspect, and the private health insurance. These are major modifications. And there are these are major modifications, and there are other small modifications that you can see within the system.
You talked about the state, and like we all, like you also mentioned earlier, I mean, under the NHIA, states did not key into, the scheme. They were interested in doing their own thing. But we still have states doing their own thing right now, their own health insurance scheme. So what's the relationship between the NHIA and the states to get them to key into what is happening on the national scale?
Excellent. At the point, as I said, they refuse to, states refuse.
Yes.
But with a lot of conversation and with the advent of the basic provision, basic healthcare provision fund, it says that for you, state to benefit from health insurance, you must have health insurance agency. So some of them quickly establish the health insurance agencies, and therefore they have agencies which was approved by the National Council on Health. So they are coming now to drive the basic health care provision fund. Was very legitimate coming. So they are not doing their own things. But now, when I came, there were no interface between the health insurance agency at the
national level
and the state. So that's why we developed the health insurance under our roof. To bring them together into one ecosystem.
And they are keen into it?
They have keyed into it. Now we are working together. And we sit down, we review we do a peer review, we identify areas of weaknesses, we provide a lot of technical support to them in their operations, and even the basic healthcare provision fund, we do a joint accreditation of healthcare facilities. We do a joint accreditation, quality assurance review, and so on and so forth. So we are now working harmoniously with the state,
With the state.
in a symbiotic manner.
Thank you very much, Professor Sambo. Before I let you go, it's important that we all drive this mission together. Health insurance is key because, as we've agreed, a healthy nation is a wealthy nation, and a productive one at that. What's your message to Nigerians on health insurance, both at the rural areas and the urban centers?
Health insurance globally is acknowledged to be the easiest mechanism for getting access to health care. Policymakers have to understudy health insurance and give it its appropriate place in the scheme of things. It must be priority because it is a mechanism that will ensure productive and prosperous nation. Number two, general populace must search for information about health insurance. As we are trying to reach out, people should be patient to listen to us and understood this concept so that they can key into it. Those who have. The poor, they should look at what Mr. President has done by signing this law and ensure that they understood how it will work and how they will benefit from it. Civil society organizations, they should be in the vanguard of ensuring that innovative financing is embedded to generate necessary resources for the implementation of especially the vulnerable segment of the population. All the actors of health insurance agencies, whether at national level or at subnational level, should try as much as possible to understand the principle and how they can make health insurance better for Nigeria, so that at the end of the day, we have government committing resources through innovative financing to the health insurance. The managers of the health insurance system are delivering the services the way it should be delivered, and the communities are having interface with the health insurance for the purpose of getting the services and also be happy with what they are getting. If we do this, then Nigeria will be in a right trajectory of becoming a developed and prosperous nation. Because health is very critical ingredient. It's a very veritable vehicle for development.
Thank you very much, Professor Sambo. It's been a pleasure having this conversation with you. Health indeed is wealth. A healthy nation is a wealthy nation. And that is the much we're taking away from this conversation with the Director General, National Health Insurance Authority, Professor Mohammed Sambo. He is a man who is doing so much and trying to contribute his own quota to revamping our healthcare system in Nigeria. If you've had a good time with us on this conversation, why don't you join us again same time next week on the network service of the NTA. I am Ololade Adeniji Adele. Bye for now.